Ben.
Hey guys, hey James.
Hey, you got a new camera by the looks of things. You're in focus.
Yeah, it looks like the camera thing was indeed the issue here, so technical difficulties have been fixed.
Now, Ben, just to jump right into it here, you have been making some fair comments, to say the least. I mean, in particular, I saw that there was a lot of appreciation for your sentiment that Canopy was going to start moving again. And boom, here we are, and it's up $5, 12.
Ben told me when you were away, we were chatting. He says, "Keep your eye on Canopy.
Yeah,
it's getting loaded for a move here."
Wow.
And there you go. So you wait 2 weeks. So I know it's a long time, but.
So Ben, let us ask you, what is the story, Morning Glory, behind the move in Canopy today?
Well, the big catalyst, of course, is the Piper Jaffray recommendation of Canopy stock. Of course, that went a long way. But some of these recommendations from these big analysts won't necessarily move the stock to this degree unless it's primed. And I think you've been seeing over the past 3 or so weeks that the stock has been base building. It's been forming higher lows on the hourly, and it's been sort of grinding higher in a channel. So it was primed and loaded for that someone to come out like Piper and recommend the stock and then just sort of send it into orbit. It broke resistance on the top of the channel, and it just kept flying today. So that was the catalyst. Big Wall Street analyst initiating coverage on the stock and getting more analysts into the fray.
So do you think that Piper coming out with a recommendation like that is the sort of vanguard of larger banking and financial management companies coming into the cannabis space in a public way?
Yeah, I think so. I think in a way it was big because they're one of the major analysts on Wall Street, and the fact that they're coming in now and not waiting for the States Act to pass just shows that more players on Wall Street are getting into the game and not waiting for the States Act or some other legislative events to arise before throwing their names in the hat. So you're just seeing more adoption and more people wanting, investment banks wanting to get into the space, which is ultimately a good thing.
Mm-hmm. 10 minutes ago, I looked at the Midas letter index for the large caps. They were all green, and it was up 12%. Do you think? I mean, they're all up. Is Canopy leading them, or is it just Canopy is part of the move, but not necessarily the reason why the others are moving? I think it looks like money's going back into the sector.
Yeah, it looks like it. I think Canopy ultimately is the straw that stirs the drink in the sector. So the fact that they moved, drags all boats above, up with it. I think the move in Aurora Cannabis was very interesting as well. Yesterday, I wrote a piece that although some news pieces came out on Bloomberg, on the Globe and Mail, that they actually missed revenue estimates. They only did so. There was only 2 estimates out there, and both of the estimates were 60 million and 75 million. They were like 25% away from each other. So I think people recognize this fact and bid Aurora Cannabis up as well, realizing that no one really knows what's going on. In terms of Bay Street analyst estimates. Even Afria, with earnings coming out on Friday, you have 3 estimates out there. The median estimate is 28.3 million, but the low end estimate is 20 million and the high end is 35. So some of these estimates don't really make sense, and I think people realize that in Aurora, and it got swept up in the Canopy euphoria that happened today.
Interesting. So do you see any other macro catalysts in the sector that are likely to either continue to drive the positive sentiment that we see now, or is likely to cause a reversal?
Yeah, most definitely. There's catalysts on both ends of the spectrum. On the Canadian side, you have edibles coming up in Q3. So there are some companies like Hexo Corp that are positioned to capitalize on that. Of course, Canopy is another company well positioned to capitalize on that. south of the border, you have the States Act, and I don't think that this is really getting enough attention. If that passes, of course, federally, and the state's law and federal law will be in unison, essentially, and then that will drive more investment banking into the sector, because banks won't be afraid of flaunting money laundering laws or anything like that. So a lot of American companies won't need to go to Canada to raise capital anymore. That's a big event for the U.S. MSOs. So yeah, I would say those two are the big drivers. Also on the Canadian side as well, you have more retail outlets opening up as we go. In April, 25 outlets at least will be opening up in Ontario, and that's big because I think sales have been stunted to a certain degree by the messy rollout because everything's only been available online. But once you get the retail going with that and get some of the branding considerations going with that as well, I think it's really going to drive sales and make the potential of post-legalization sales really shine through.
Mm-hmm. In the U.S. MSO universe, we're not quite seeing the same level of enthusiasm as we are in the Canadian operator space. And given your comments about the States Act, does that sort of jive with what you're saying there, Ben, that it's underappreciated in the context of a catalyst?
I'm not sure about that. I mean, some of the moves in the United States with the MSOs have been quite large lately. Acreage, for example, has gone up almost 100% off the lows in about 3 weeks. A lot of the big ones are up 30, 40%. So I think some of the moves down there have been sort of equivalent to what has happened north of the border. So I don't know. We haven't seen a lot of press in terms of what's coming up with the legislative aspects of the States Act. But once a bill is tabled and that starts to gather momentum in Congress, I think we're going to hear more about it and people will get more excited about it. But right now it's sort of, it's something that's on the radar, but it's sort of dormant at this point.
Mm-hmm. All right, Ben, that's a great update for us. Thank you very much. We'll come back to you soon.